Welcome to the From Pain to Purpose radio show. I'm your host, Eva Fulton. In this show, we explore the incredible journeys of resilience, healing, and transformation. In each episode, we will sit down with individuals who have faced unimaginable struggles and turned their pain into power, heartbreak into hope, and their challenges into meaningful change and finding new purpose in life. Through candid conversations and inspiring stories, we will uncover how pain, whether emotional, physical, mental, or spiritual, can be the catalyst for profound growth and a deeper sense of purpose. So if you are looking for motivation, insight, and real stories of triumph over adversity, you're in the right place. Let's get started on this journey from pain to purpose. Let's give veterans a voice through military broadcast talk.
So my answer to going to college was join the Army. 1992, my life changed forever. PCS to Germany with my two boys and really try to take advantage of the opportunity to travel, learn another language, the culture. It was to me the dream coming true, that everything that I'd been going through was worth it, because I was seeing another part of the world that I wouldn't have had the opportunity if I hadn't been in the military. Planned on getting out in 2000. That was really kind of a part of a joy in my life, and getting married for the second time. And I looked forward to the future. Ended up kind of becoming disillusioned, and that was the whole housing bubble thing where the mortgage jumped from bank to bank to bank. My kids were counting on me to take care of them, to ask for that kind of help. I've done to help other women is make sure that they know what their resources are. It's for a long time I didn't understand that my service in the military counted as a woman veteran, but nobody told me, hey Eva, you're a veteran too, until I had that light bulb moment and said, my service counted too. And I can tell you it's been a long road to learn how to dream again. The community was the solution, be it churches, be it nonprofits, be it veteran service organizations, or just people like myself. We are the resources. We are the solution to help keeping women off of the street, our women veterans housed and having the resources they need and not living in a car. Of the work that grows us as leaders for our second service after the military to serve other people in our communities. Hi everybody, welcome to the From Pain to Purpose radio show. Fair warning, this is pre-recorded because I'm going to spend some weekend time with my daughter and her new young family. So I am adjusting my schedule here on Monday, and I'm super excited about having my guest today because you saw my intro video that I just did. It's the trailer for my documentary, From Pain to Purpose, her second service story. It is internationally award-winning. It has been in the film festival market for many years now, but I'm still working on that parallel thing with my dissertation, my PhD in public administration. And, you know, I love when I know that the people that I connect with throughout the years have something that they bring to the table that helps us, that helps me help somebody else understand that, one, they're not going through things alone. Two, that chances are somebody else has been going through something that has helped pave the way to make things a little bit easier
not a perfect process in the veteran world of things. You guys all know that. I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know, but what are we talking about today? We are talking about claims in the veteran world of things. And, there's lots of things that happen on that side. I showed y'all the pictures from my car wreck in 1992. I got out on a medical discharge in 2000, and it's been this incremental process on getting help for my claim that took years and years and years. It was 20%, then it was 30%, then it was, I think I finally got like the 70%. And my mind's a little fuzzy sometimes on did I get the 70, but then I finally got the 100% in 2018. It took 18 years after getting out of the military to get the 100%. And it's been a journey, but it's not easy, right? And we all go through a whole variety of things. I had years where I was not able to work, but it wasn't until I sent in the pictures for my car wreck that I think somebody had an aha moment in the VA claims world of things and said, oh snap, this was not a normal car wreck. No wonder why she has screws in her knees and a knee replacement and so on and so forth. It's not been easy. And coincidentally, they gave it to me as a blessing and actually awarded it on my birthday in 2018. So, it's been a journey. My guest this week to help us understand claims is actually from the JAG world of things, the Judge Advocate General in the Army. I was a JAG paralegal, loved that work, had many different roles, and I was talking with my guest, Rick Rousseau, just before the show, and I thought we had actually worked at the same place at the same time, but we did not. But we crossed paths, and it's a small world. So Rick's going to join us, and he's going to talk about his enlisted service in the Army starting in 1988. That's when I started. And he served for 27 years, and he retired in 2015 as a colonel, as an Army Judge Advocate General officer. These experiences led and prepared him to represent veterans with VA disability benefits and surviving spouses for VA benefits. He also was in Operation Desert Storm, just like I was, and provided legal assistance to surviving family members, and later served as a professor where he taught veterans and survivor benefits at the Army JAG School in Charlottesville, Virginia. I think I made it there twice. Since his retirement from active duty in 2015, he's represented thousands of veterans and surviving spouses as a VA accredited attorney, and he's going to discuss some very painful cases that he's been involved with, and of course, some of those success stories. So thank you much for joining us, Rick. Let's see. He's our interview.
The interview of the week is brought to you by Jersey Mike's, a sub above.
Welcome, sir. Rick Rousseau. Thank you for joining the From Pain to
bet.
Purpose radio show.
You bet. I'm glad to be here and share what I can with others as far as what we do and helping veterans. I like to tell everybody in our law firm, every day is Veterans Day, because everybody that we deal with is a veteran, and everybody that works here in our firm is either a veteran, a spouse of a veteran, or spouse of active duty. So it's Veterans Day every day here.
That is awesome. I think I started following you on LinkedIn, and I watched that you've added different members. I think your daughter is a part of your firm as well. She's a veteran, right?
Not my daughter, but
Not your daughter. Okay.
Some of my employees have been here for quite a while. Like I said, we started in 2015, right after I retired, and my senior folks have been here for 6, 7 years now. So
Awesome.
it's quite a group that we have that brings in a lot of experience. And like I said, I think even the spouses understand that we have, what goes on the military side, and understand, the purpose in the veteran world. So yeah, we do what we can to help out, mainly with VA disability claims and appeals, and also a couple of our attorneys that, as you mentioned, you went through a medical board. Two of our
Yes.
attorneys worked in the IDES process for medical boards, one for 17 years, one for 18 years. So they have a lot of experience in the medical board process, which is another area where services are being cut a lot on the active duty and reserve side. And we're kind of seeing the pain in that as well.
Well, so where do we begin? If I think the hardest part is for a lot of veterans, and they're just getting out, or maybe they've been out for years. I can give you a great example, like my dad. He's 83, has never filed a claim.
Right.
I tried putting in for even a copy of all of his records. Zilch, nada. If he got something, he never told me. But he's got, really bad tinnitus and, not major issues because he was Air National Guard. But let's say somebody's been out for years. Where's a good place to start?
I, I always start by telling everybody, and kind of using a sports analogy, if you hadn't filed a claim or you haven't filed a new claim, you're kind of on the outside of the ballpark looking in, and you got to get in the ballpark. And you get
Right.
in the ballpark by filing those claims, whether it's through a veteran service officer, or these days, VA.gov is very easy to file a claim through VA.gov and get it going. So to me, the first thing is get the claim filed, or get an intent to file a claim submitted while you get things together. I will say, in the VA process side, uh, things have sped up, I think, a lot over the last 7, 8 years in processing claims. And it's both good and bad. The good is, if you file a claim, it's not uncommon within about 30 days, the VA is scheduling a compensation and pension exam. About 96% of all compensation and pension exams these days are done by contract examiners.
Right.
And those contractors have to get it completed within 30 days to get paid the max that they can. So they want to move out on it. Kind of the downside is, what's the quality of the examiner? And there's some great ones, and there's some that aren't very good. And so, we like to say at times, as you mentioned, sometimes you got to go around the hamster wheel a few times, and it may take a few exams, it may take a few appeals. But to go back to your question, get the claim filed, get it going. If it doesn't turn out the right way, either not service connected or rated too low, you have a 1 year period of time to appeal it. And as long as you do that, it can go back to the date that you filed that new claim or the intent to file. So for those people that have not done it, get it rolling. At least get your intent to file put in, and then get things together.
That was huge for me, I think, was getting the intent to file,
Mhm.
started on va.gov.
Right.
I mean, I think I'm, savvy enough about what those systems were. I mean, they were pretty wonky when they first started getting it
Right.
online, and
Yep.
then having to navigate, some of their drop down menus was a little difficult. And how do what's the difference between a secondary
Right.
versus a primary cause, was the hardest part. But then what documentation was necessary. I was very fortunate getting out from the JAG Corps. I had plenty of people telling me, go get 2 full certified copies of your medical records. And so, no matter what happens between DOD and the VA, those original files, you had 2 full certified copies that could help supplement whatever issues are. And then I had some very good people, friends of mine, go through your medical records file for
Right.
pretty much anything that had happened. Everything from basic training to, a deployment to what other, field exercises or whatever. And I think the biggest one was having the line of duty on my car wreck, because
Right.
that was very fully documented that it was a line of duty, and they couldn't argue that.
Right. That's important. And, it's kind of unique when you talk about line of duty because we don't see them that often on active duty individuals unless there's some allegation that there may have been some type of misconduct to take you out of the line of duty. On the Guard and Reserve side, we actually see it more, but not enough because, if somebody had an injury at a drill, or I've had several cases, believe it or not, where somebody's getting ready to drive in the front gate for a drill or training, and they have an accident on the way in. And so it's helpful if we have those line of duty investigations that took place for our Guard and Reserve, but it's not totally crucial. If it's not there, and a lot of units fail to put them together for the Guard and Reserve, we can kind of go back and get documents and put it together, not a line of duty, but provide the evidence that's needed for the service connection. If I can kind of loop back to something that you said about, I think it was your father, individual had never filed for a claim before. A couple of interesting cases that I've had, I've found more often than not, a lot of our Vietnam veterans never filed a claim. And it was that mentality, somebody else had it worse than me, or somebody didn't come back. Why should I file? And unfortunately, I've had that come up several times after the veteran died. And we were trying to get dependency and indemnity compensation for the spouse. And as you mentioned, we'd go get the claims file and there'd be nothing in there. They never filed. A couple of cases that we had that kind of illustrate that. One very, very recently, I participate I'm in Bell County in Central Texas, close to Fort Hood. Bell County Bar Association does a veterans legal clinic several times a year, pro bono legal clinic. And I had a lady that came in to see me that she was 94 years old. Her husband had been a Vietnam veteran, and he died in 1983 from a cancer.
Wow.
Because he was a retiree, she was getting survivor benefit plan, which was good. And she was getting survivor Social Security, which was good. She had never filed for anything on the VA side because he had never filed for anything on the VA side. As we dug into the case, we found that the cancer that he died from later on became a presumptive condition for Agent Orange. And we were able to file for dependency and indemnity compensation for her. And it was not only granted, even though we didn't file for it till this year. Surprisingly, we were able to get it granted all the way back to 1983, which hundreds of thousands of dollars for her. There is a provision in the statute that says if you file for Social Security survivor benefits, it is basically notice to the VA that you're a survivor, a veteran. They should consider that as like a application for DIC. So this lady who had never received anything from the VA since her husband died in 1983, it was quite the moment to call her and tell her, you're going to not only be getting DIC each month and the benefits that go with it, you're going to get several $100,000 going back to 1983. And we've had other cases that are similar on DIC. And those cases, I mean, we do a lot of disability, but the DIC cases, dependency indemnity compensation, really, piqued my curiosity because of that. And we put a lot of effort, obviously, in those cases to get the survivors what their spouses earned while they're on active duty.
Right. But that is, I'm glad you did that. That is public administration 101.
Right.
Right. If it's written there and these are the processes and it's all documented, well, I mean, I get it to a certain point. Yes, it's they put the VA on notice way back when, but until you ask for it, you're not going to get it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
use it or lose it in a way.
Yeah. And it's interesting, the history on this actually goes back to a law or a statute in the 1950s that told the VA and Social Security to come up with a joint form for Social Security survivor benefits and DIC. And neither one ever came up with a joint form. So over the years, the courts have held, well, because of that, if you applied for a Social Security survivor, it is like notice of an application to the VA. So
Right.
it's kind of a little known provision that we go and look for. Sometimes we get the DIC granted, then have to go back and appeal to get that earlier effective date. But those cases, like I said, there's something special to me about the DIC cases. My first experience with it, you mentioned Desert Shield, Desert Storm. One correction, I didn't deploy in Desert Shield,
Okay.
Desert Storm.
Okay.
I was at Little Redstone Arsenal in northern Alabama during Desert Shield, Desert Storm. We deployed a lot of folks from that area. But the interesting part is, as you're aware, there's a lot of Guard and Reserve units that are in the northern Alabama, Tennessee area. Then we not only prepped to deploy, but we had 4 or 5 casualties that were from that area that we assisted their survivors with benefits. And we, had a checklist in the JAG Corps where you would go through,
Right.
These are the benefits. And one of the, very sobering moments was talking with a surviving spouse who was 23 years old, and telling her, okay, you're getting this dependency and indemnity compensation. You're 23 years old. The last thing on your mind right now is getting married again.
Right.
But I'm telling you, I have an obligation to tell you, if you get married before age 55, I think at that time the law was probably 57, 55 now, the DIC stops, and you need to be aware of that. And I wasn't telling her to go shack up with somebody. I wasn't saying that.
Right.
But I
Right.
was telling her, be aware, because what last thing I want you to do is go get married and then after the fact realize you lost this benefit that you
Right.
had. So it was very much, a sobering moment, and letting her know about the benefit, but then make sure she was aware of the rules.
So on average, how much is DIC? I don't even know.
These days, for a surviving spouse, it's right at $1,700 a month. It's
Okay.
tax-free, just like disability income.
Okay.
There can be an additional amount added on for each child. There can be an additional amount that's added on if the surviving spouse is housebound or needs aid and attendance. So normally it's between about $1,700 to about $2,200 a month. So it's not the full 100% that, say, a veteran may be getting, but it's a significant amount. And when a death is service connected, the DIC is payable. The surviving spouse also qualifies for CHAMP VA insurance and a lot of the other benefits that go along with it. So, it does kind of help fill in the gap that may have been created by the death.
Sure. So can they also get the SSDI as well?
Yeah, that's completely separate. So
Right.
now VA is, yeah.
I
Go ahead.
know I lost my second husband. He was not a veteran, but I lost him in 2015, and I got to collect the SSDI for our 2 youngest kids until they turned 18, or when the school year finished. So I didn't know if that was like a dual benefit, that it's one or the other, not both.
No. No, the only thing is that obviously for VA disability benefits, the VA disability stops upon the death of the veteran, and the
Right.
DIC can pick up. But if there's Social Security benefits, one doesn't impact the other. Now,
Oh,
there
that's good
is
to
some
know.
interplay in that VA and Social Security will share some records. So, like I
Hmm.
always tell everybody, if you're dealing with one, make sure you're consistent with what you're saying to
Right.
both,
Right.
because VA can pull some, some Social Security records and vice versa. But yeah, they can qualify for both benefits.
I think a lot of the federal agencies are doing more of that record sharing, just a matter of, keeping things so that people aren't getting more than what they're supposed to.
Right.
But in some ways, it's actually beneficial to be able to apply for things if it's due to you. I mean, I if I hadn't have been helping Mark with applying for SSDI for himself, I wouldn't have known anything about my being able to get it when he passed away, because
Right.
when he passed away, then it sent all of those payments directly to me, and that was such a huge help raising two young kids. So,
Right. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
well, before the show, we were talking about the whole concept about buddy statements and spouse, family member statements. I think one of the biggest things that helped me reach my 100% in 2018 were pictures of my car wreck. I think that was a clear, hey, this was not like a fender bender kind of thing. This was
Right.
like, hey, I woulda, coulda, shoulda died in that thing. But I also, Mark had written me a spousal, the impacts of what the accident had done to me as his spouse. And then also, my mother had written a letter. And I think that was huge,
Right.
coming from both of those people, the impact of what my service was, and how these injuries had affected me, the service, the sickness, right? Because
Right.
now even Desert Storm, Gulf War veterans, we have what is it? I want to say it. Is it 10? DSM 10? We have a new code for Gulf War veterans that is available for us.
Right.
But getting that applied is a whole
Yeah.
nother story. But I
Right.
think that these spousal letters, the
Yeah.
family member letters, were huge.
And I agree. As I like to say, as a recovering criminal defense attorney and prosecutor that had to live by the rules of evidence, one of the things that I love in VA law is the rules of evidence don't apply in VA law. And so what evidence can we get? I mean, I use the term develop, and I don't mean just dream up, but go and get,
Yeah.
and statements is one of them. And it's not uncommon with our veterans on the disability side. I see a very common scenario. Veteran gets off of active duty, and for a period of 5 or 10 years, they may not have any insurance. So they don't go to the doctor. They don't have medical records. And 5 or 10 years later, they get insurance somewhere that they're working. They start going to the doctor. They apply for benefits, and the VA denies it and says, well, there's no records for a 10-year period after you got out. This must be some new injury that developed. Well, if there's no records, one way we can fill in that gap is with some lay statements, like you mentioned. What was the veteran during that period of time? My back was still hurting. My knees were still hurting. I would soak in the tub. I would rub on icy hot. I took Motrin. What did I do to take care? The condition didn't go away. The
Right.
condition continued. And even the VA gets us wrong a lot, because I see VA ratings and medical decisions all the time that say there is no continuity of treatment of the veteran. The law and the rule is continuity of the symptoms. Did the symptoms continue that the veteran had? And if there are no records, let's get statements together. Can a spouse write up how you were suffering? Can a spouse write a statement that when you have those migraine headaches, you have to go to a room and turn off the light and you can't function. And that's been happening ever since active duty. So we
Yes.
use lay statements in almost every case that we do. And whether it's at the supplemental claim level or going to the Board of Veterans Appeals, because it brings the case to life and it helps to fill in the gaps. So we use those all the time. And I would highly recommend that veterans, and whether it's filing initial claims or appeals, consider if statements can fill in the gaps for them.
That's huge. I think the other two, I think I had two fill-in doctors. One was an ortho doctor up in South Lake, and saw me for my back, and because that didn't ever stop hurting, and had to get some, back treatments there. And then I had a chiropractor that was very veteran friendly, and he was like, I'll be happy to write a statement for you. And help form that nexus that, yes, this was more than likely than not. So I did lots of research. I loved the internet when I was putting all of this together, because I was able to get the nexus letter that helped paint that picture, fill in the gaps of what the VA didn't know. But I think the part of it was, when I got out, I got out in 2000. I went and started my identity as a veteran at the VA, but like I kind of talked about it in my trailer, family kind of coaxes you into not going and get your veteran benefits, right? And there's that distrust that we had in the whole VA system. It was like, no, you don't want to go to the VA if you're sick. Well, I didn't know where to go then, and how could I afford paying for insurance? I didn't have that option. And I got, when I had full-time job and had insurance, I could go. But when I got laid off, I had no insurance again. So my primary care is still the VA. I mean, I have, even though I have Blue Cross Federal, I'm a federal employee, for the continuity of the care, I have kept it with the VA, and I've been very fortunate with some great doctors that treat me. So that's pretty important. Do you have any words of advice on how people can get those medical records? I mean, that's, I think, probably the hardest part.
Getting the records, a number of different ways. And just a little bit on our own process, but it's also, I think, process any veteran should do. We always start off by doing a request for the official military personnel file. You can go online and get the SF-180 and do the request on there. Do a request for the VA claims file. In theory, your OMPF, official military personnel file, and service treatment records should all be in your VA claims file. They're not always there. And it amazes me every day, because we have a whole section in our firm that's what their focus is getting records, is comparing what's in the claims file, what's in the OMPF, and sometimes they're in one and not the other. So get the records requested. Unfortunately, on the claims side, getting the full claims file takes a little bit of time. There's a VA form for that. These days, it's running about 3 months to 6 months to get a copy under the FOIA and Privacy Act. It takes a little while. If the veteran is represented by an accredited agent, an accredited attorney, or a veteran service officer, we can get access to what's called VBMS, which is the VA electronic claim system. So we can see in real time, and we can download in real time, in effect, what they call the e-folder, electronic folder, which is like the claims file. So as we take a new case in, we're going to go through that and look at everything in there, and more importantly, what's not in there. I kind of jokingly tell a lot of veterans that sometimes it may not even be something magical on the legal side we need to do, but it's leaving that trail of breadcrumbs for the VA to follow to get to the right answer. The VA process is not supposed to be an adversarial system, and there are different duty to assist requirements that are on the VA. I don't leave it the chance for the VA to go get everything. I want us to go get it and compare what's in there, and if something's missing, then provide it to them. And then that's helpful. And that can be not only statements, pictures that you've mentioned, we've used quite a bit. Sometimes we find medical journal articles that are right on point about how a condition may be service connected, and we upload some of those. So there's a lot of different things. Going back, the rules of evidence don't apply. So if it's new and if it's relevant, get it and submit it to help support your claim or appeal.
So let's jump into, if you want, let's go ahead and jump into this whole thing about what is a veteran accredited agency like yours, right? What is, we've seen some things in the news with, right, some of our favorite veteran service organizations, and then there's the whole gambit of claim sharks. Right. And I've seen some of my friends who, got taken to the cleaners, right, when they, I don't know. Can you spell all of that out?
Sure. Well, I think the best way to explain it is to go back in history with a little bit of history lesson of why and how we got here today with the unaccredited representatives. Believe it or not, until the early to mid 2005, 2008 time period, the maximum anybody could charge if they were accredited to assist a veteran with a claim was $10. That was it. And so there was a statute that said if anybody did file an initial claim and charge somebody, there was a criminal penalty for that. So the whole accreditation process came into the statute. And veteran service organizations are accredited. There's an accredited agent process where individuals can go through. It's a lengthy background check, really similar to doing a clearance in the military. They have to take an exam and they can become accredited. And then attorneys go through a similar process, but we don't take an exam. That's the difference if you're an attorney versus accredited agent. And that accreditation is done by the VA Office of General Counsel. Part of the accreditation is we have to play by the rules that the VA right. sets up. One of the primary rules in there that I mentioned is that no one can charge a veteran for filing and assisting with an initial claim. The bottom line for accredited representatives or attorneys is the way that we get paid is that we usually come in on the appeal side. And if we win on an appeal, and the VA will calculate retroactive benefits, and accredited agents or accredited attorneys can be paid a reasonable fee. And the VA generally says a reasonable fee is something at or below 33% of retroactive benefits. For attorneys, if the attorneys want, our accredited agents want the VA to withhold their fee from the retroactive benefits, we have to do it at 20%.
Okay.
As a credit attorney, I don't want to be a collection agency with a veteran. I would rather get a direct deposit from the VA than chase down a fee. So if an accredited agent or attorney wants to charge 33%, they have to go collect from the veteran. Okay. Now let's go back to what I talked about. When the law was first around, it provided for a criminal penalty if somebody was paid for an initial claim. As this was revised in 2005 to 8 for accredited attorneys and accredited agents to be paid a reasonable fee, somewhere along the process, the criminal penalties dropped out of that. I'm not exactly sure why, but it did. With the increase on the internet, particularly 2015 to 2020, some of these unaccredited companies begin to come up on the internet. Most of them do not want to go through the accreditation process. Right. Well, why? Most of them make the bulk of their money, and I'm talking millions of dollars, make the bulk of their money on what I kind of call the low-hanging fruit, which is the initial claims filing for individuals and then charging a fee when those initial claims are granted. I file initial claims all the time for veterans. Most accredited attorneys and agents do. I can't get paid on it. I don't charge on an initial claim. It's only on the appeal. So this gap where there's no criminal penalties kind of got these folks going, okay, well, if we operate and there's nothing they're going to go after us, let's go do it. And that's kind of where they've driven the train through that gap in the process. And so the issue becomes, well, then who's watching these folks? Who governs them?
I'm laughing because I'm like, this is public administration 101.
Right. If I do something wrong, then, or an accredited agent, but if an accredited attorney, they can go to VA Office of General Counsel and complain against me. They could contest my fee, and VA Office of General Counsel will consider that. They could go against my bar if they think I did something unethical. Who do you go after for these unaccredited reps?
Right.
Well, the VA Office of General Counsel has said they have no authority over them because they're not accredited. And so they can't go after them. So there is
a double-edged, sneaky sword.
It is. It is.
I
so
mean, this reminds me of like the whole loan shark thing when we were active duty. And, that was.
So that's kind of the whole claim sharks thing. And I don't want to name any of them. I've actually, along with, I think most of the members in National Organization of Veterans Advocates, we all got an email cease and desist letter from one of them at one point in time telling us to stop calling them claim sharks. So I try to avoid naming particular ones, but they're out there. And the main thing I tell veterans is ask if the organization they're going to is accredited. Are they accredited VSO? Are they accredited agent? Are they accredited attorney? If they're not accredited, it's buyer beware. I mean, who is going to govern?
Sure. I think that from what I can see, the outsider looking in, I mean, I'm an insider, but I'm also an outsider because I have my academic hat in public administration that I can put on. You have risk of giving your records to somebody and you don't know what they're going to do with them. Right?
Well, I'll take it a step further. Okay. I told you, as an accredited attorney, I get access to VBMS. I can look at the claims file. Unaccredited organizations can't do that. This is even scarier. What do they do with the veteran? They tell them, give us your login to va.gov and your password.
And they could change the direct deposit for your monthly payment and everything if you're getting a disability, right now.
Right.
Wow, that's scary. But if you're giving them paper records even or sending them electronically, that's all your PII that they're getting access to, and whatever your personal health issues are.
And then see on top of it, anything that I submit, it's got my name, it's got my VA accreditation number, it's got my VA power of attorney on it. When these unaccredited organizations file stuff, their name and contact information doesn't appear anywhere. It's as if the veteran did, but they're doing it, a lot of them, on the veteran's behalf, but their information appears nowhere. They simply have a contract with the veteran, and I would argue it's probably an illegal contract because I think it's in violation of the statute.
The best I would think that the VA could track these nefarious individuals, I'm going to use that word, nefarious, is IP address. If it's not, if it's not the veteran's IP address, but you don't know, veterans could log in at the library and it not be their IP address.
Right.
Man, scary stuff. But so I also think, isn't there also this risk that they would put in a purposefully bad claim and then appeal it afterwards in order to get money?
Most of them don't really want to do appeals. They want to do the initial. But to go to your point, let me kind of explain how a lot of them are set up. I won't say all, but a lot of these have both a claims consulting side, which is like they what they hold themselves out, and they have a medical side. On the medical side, they sell nexus letters. What, in my world, it's an expert medical opinion, but
Yeah.
it's a nexus letter, and they're making money on both sides. So as they're helping on the claim, they say what you really need is a nexus letter. By the way, we have the sister company that you can get it through. One of the things the VA has started looking at is doesn't take that much effort in today's world to figure out where some of these nexus letters are coming from and who's signing them. The downside is going to be some of the veterans are going to pay the price on this, because computer programs, probably with the VA and AI these days, can go figure out who got granted to a certain level based on a nexus opinion that may not really be accurate or truthful, by tracking who the provider was. And, my concern is some of these veterans are going to get caught in the dragnet, that there's going to be some stuff that's said in there that wasn't true. And I fear that some of them are going to pay the price.
That is scary to think. I mean, I've heard about that, but that was just some trend analysis of which doctors,
Right.
which areas,
Right.
and if you put, I mean, data is data. You can mine that data. Hey, Dr. John Doe, Dr. Jane Doe from. I live up in North Texas, but you have these same doctors, and they've submitted, they've given nexus letters for 500 patients up there.
Right.
It kind of makes you wonder.
Yeah. Now it's scary, and I think the technology is going to catch, and some of them are going to be unfortunate. I mean, one of the VA training products I saw basically said, question if a medical opinion or a disability benefits questionnaire was issued by a physician more than 100 miles from the veteran. Maybe because that was somebody across the country. Well, I have some individuals that are professors at teaching hospitals that are very well credited, that do a complete review of records and give a medical opinion the right way. Are they going to look at they're located somewhere 100 miles more?
Yeah,
So
they could
that's why I
have been a full second opinion that says, hey, I'm struggling. I'm not getting the answers over here. I know there's something wrong with me. Or maybe something happened and they go visit mom in Pennsylvania and, something happens.
Yeah. So,
wow.
Yeah. So the term claim shark, and there's activity on the legislative side. Now, the problem is in Congress, there's competing bills there. Historically, there's been what's called the GUARD Act, which is to put some regulations and criminal penalties back into this. The claim sharks, believe it or not, you won't be surprised, they have their own lobbying effort going on, which they have a lot of money. And they have some individuals on their side with their legislation. So, I've gone 2 or 3 times now over the last 5 years to do lobbying in Congress as part of National Organization of Veterans Advocates for the GUARD Act or similar provisions. Because it's stalled on the national level, these unaccredited organizations have started to try to get legislation passed on the state levels to get it approved. And obviously we have issues there because this is a federal law. Why should the states be involved in saying that unaccredited agents can comply with the federal statute? So, for listeners, I would say stay tuned. There's legislation, pending on different levels, and hopefully we'll get something that's favorable coming about.
So that's where you see things headed, that there are some things in the works, and is it really just going to be a matter of time, politics, money, all of the above? Well,
first of all, is there much getting done in Washington period right now? That's one issue, and you have these two competing groups. So I hold out hope that there will be, and I just don't know after the sausage is made what it's going to end up looking like. But hopefully there'll be some legislation. A few of these companies have been sued in class action lawsuits and some of them have filed bankruptcy to try to get around the class action. We'll
Yeah.
see how that
I
goes.
I think some of them are ghosting the
Yeah,
veterans, right? I mean, I know a lady that she was just flat out ghosted once the whole process was, the appeal process was pending. She got ghosted.
yeah.
I don't even know what the status was of her claim. So, um, the sorry, I have a guest show. I tried texting him and let him know, hey, come in the side door. It's my guest for my co-host for the other show. We're recording here shortly. Um, I'm trying to text him. But anyways, what is something that I could have asked, should have asked, but didn't? Do you have anything out there?
Well, one of the things I think I would like to throw out, I teach a lot of classes and a lot of continuing education for veterans law. And periodically I get asked, what's the most memorable client or case that you've had? And there's no doubt there's one that stands out in my mind. And I think it kind of goes to the purpose of your show. I represented a veteran that was at 70% for PTSD. He was in a wheelchair. He had lost part of a leg that was amputated and continued to have medical problems with it. He had been represented by somebody else. He wanted to get to 100% for his PTSD. He was at
Sure.
70. It had been on appeal for several years when I took it, and then I continued it. We went to the Board of Veterans Appeals. We did an in-person hearing with the veteran law judge and to try to get him to 100. And when you do your hearing, like most things, there's a period of time where you're waiting for a rating decision. So we were waiting and waiting for the rating decision. While we're waiting, I got a phone call from his wife that the veteran passed away. This happens sometimes. Fortunately, there is a VA process where a surviving spouse can be substituted into the claim to continue it. And we did that. We got it in the right way. So we got that done and we were waiting for the decision to come back. As we're waiting, I mean, and months have passed by and I hadn't heard anything. And this is almost 10 years ago, and it was before we regularly had electronic access to VA claims files. So I had to depend on the mail to deliver the news. I happened to come in on a Saturday afternoon and I picked up my mail, and the rating decision was there from the Board of Veterans Appeals. And the rating decision granted 100%, going back for a number of years, which was going to result in hundreds of thousands of dollars in retroactive benefits. So being Saturday afternoon, I went ahead and picked up the phone and I called the surviving spouse to give her the news. And in my business, there's nothing better than calling somebody to tell them not only you've won, but you're going to be at 100%. And this is potentially what you may receive. So I told her that. And when you tell people that, there can be yelling, there can be excitement, there can be crying, sometimes a little bit of silence. So I told her, and there was silence for a long period of time on the other end of the phone. And she said, I'm glad you called me. I had decided tonight I was going to end my life because the only income we had was my husband's VA disability and his Social Security and my little bit of Social Security. I couldn't go on anymore. And that's what saved her. That's what saved her. That she went from within hours ending it all, that then knowing she was going to be taken care of, she was going to have the VA benefits each month and have a nest egg that she could depend on. So when people ask me what case
Why?
sticks out the most, I can't
Why do you
help,
do what you do?
I can't
Yeah.
help that. Yeah.
What a blessing, man. I know that when I got my disability, because it was like, reading that paper. there was a certain validation,
Yeah. Right.
that the injuries that I had sustained were not imaginary. I mean, there's physical pain. And, I built the show based upon 4 pillars of physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual pain. When you get that kind of validation, it hits on all 4 that, thank you, God,
Right.
just, because the first thing that you're feeling is the physical pain,
Right.
but it starts affecting the mental and the emotional and the toll, and then it's your spiritual, because this lady, you are such a blessing, Rick. Man, that's huge. So people need to know why are there good attorneys out there like Rick, and how far do you help people? Is it only in the state of Texas,
No,
or?
it's across the country. We primarily do appeals that we call the agency level, the regional office level, and up to the Board of Veterans Appeals. I used to take cases all the way up to the Court of Appeals of Veterans Claims, but we just got so busy. So if we get to the point that we need to go to that level, usually I engage with another attorney, and we've probably got a handful of cases at the Court of Appeals of Veterans Claims. But VA practice is nationwide. I have clients across the world, in Germany and the Philippines, etc. So it's a little bit different from the regular practice of law in that we can
Yeah.
represent anybody everywhere, and a lot of it can be done virtually. I mean, we have a physical office because I like the interaction with my staff because we can talk about cases, but no matter where the veteran is, we can get the documents to them that need to be done and do it virtually with them.
I have a name for you. I met this lady way back, gosh, close to 10 years. Do you know Brene Brooks? I
What?
think Brene Brooks, I
I don't.
think is her name.
Okay.
So she started her own practice. I need to have her on. She used to work for the VA Court of Appeals,
Okay.
and she started her own practice. So if you need a name, if you ever
Okay.
need a resource, let me know. She's
Okay.
very sharp, and she'll post occasionally, help
There we go.
somebody else. Uh, wow, so incredible. I thank you for the work that you do.
Okay.
I think that's the beauty in that, as a JAG attorney, you know, I think the career field that we had in the military taught us some things, let us develop that after the military. Mine has been on the public administration side, so I may not be attorney, but it's all about that process side of things, and you got to follow the processes are there,
Right.
because otherwise, if you're not checking those check box to say we did that in the process, then that's going to stump you through everything. Well, thank you for
You bet.
joining us.
You bet. Anytime.
This is going to air on Saturday. So you are joy if you ever want to come back on because something new is changing in the claims world of side. You got an open door. Feel free to reach back out,
Right.
and thank you for all you do.
You bet. Thanks.
Stay on after the show,
Okay.
and I'll connect with you about something else. So, uh, all right, folks, thank you so much for joining us today on From Pain to Purpose radio show with Military Broadcast Radio, letting our veterans' voices be heard. The gamut of the things that we do in the veteran arena is we're here to help each other, right? We are here to help support each other and wherever we're going and the things that affect us, and don't ever let somebody dissuade you from filing your claim, because it's really important to make sure that you take care of you, and that's one of the best ways to help yourself. That is one of the things that I think has been a big part of my success journey, is filing my claim and taking care of me and my family. So y'all have a great week, and I'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye.
Hi, I'm Beaker with Military Broadcast Radio TV. We're your virtual MWR, bringing veterans radio, podcasts, gaming, animation, 3D printing, and a community that never leaves you behind. Download our Roku or mobile app today.
Wisdom to share if you listen this week, so pull up a chair and stay for a spell. We're heading down a